Good morning, DCTV fam. It is Wednesday, August 31st. I can't believe we are at the end of August already. It's unbelievable. But we are here. We have tons of topics to talk about. Most importantly, why Bitcoin has the ability to go down to $12,000. Can it happen? Will it happen? And why will it happen? Or why could it happen is going to be one of our main topics today, but we have a shit ton of other stuff to talk about today as well. And I need some help to do that. So we got Tamp in the house. We also have Greg and Jaime here. And
metric
guys,
shit ton to talk
yes,
about.
I'm super pumped about today's show. Before we get started, I have some interesting numbers here. The futures in the indexes were up pretty decently. It dipped down in the red very briefly earlier this morning. Now have popped back green. We have the S&P's up 15 points. We also have the Dow's up 72 points. NASDAQ is up 93. Oil has started to continue its trajectory down. It's now down below $90. We'll see how long that lasts, however. And then we're looking at Bitcoin too right now. That is down, still sitting around 20,000, but it's down right now about 0.3%, which is good for 72 points. So we'll see how the rest of the day plays out. But how are you guys feeling today?
Feeling good, baby. Feeling good.
Ready. We got our.
If I had a nickel for every time, I'd have 10 cents.
Oh my God. So, gosh, there's so much to chat about today. I was trying to figure out where to start, and I thought that maybe this would be a good place to go to. I'm looking at the overall market, right? Everything's kind of been down. Everybody's talking about recession, and spending's been slowing down, yada, yada, yada. And for the majority of us, that might be the case, but not for the rich. The rich keep on shopping. And there's a article that came out from Barron's just yesterday. I thought this was very interesting. Here's what they're buying. They're buying more EVs. They're buying more Louis Vuitton. Actually, let me get back to here we go. They're buying more Louis Vuitton. Nordstrom actually had relatively decent earnings last time they reported. And so my question was, Ferrari, by the way, also having incredible earnings and their growth, they're doing just fine. My question is, do we see, I mean, we know that there's a high possibility for a recession, but do the rich need to stop spending in order for that to happen? I mean, we're seeing jobs still kind of maintain right now. And so there's this debate going on. Are we in a recession already or not? For me personally, I feel like we're not because of the jobs, because usually in recessions you see high unemployment. We're just not seeing that. And we're seeing that the rich is still out there spending a shit ton of money. So what are your thoughts on this? And are we in a recession or are we headed into recession? Why or why not?
I think we should have a recession, but I don't think we're in one right now.
Yes, and the good news about it is, that those purchases are feeding back into the economy through the wealthy channel like Louis Vuitton and all. And we have so it's still moving forward. Of course, our egos as individuals is like, man, how are they spending me while I'm watching what I'm shopping for food at the store because it just doubled, So overall, we all feel it. We are feeling it at the store, but recession, yeah, until all the qualification, despite what the White House says, or without getting political, what a recession means, we are seeing the effects of it, but not all the check marks are there yet.
Right. Yeah, I think he's right. Like, I mean, this is why people say that the government and the deep state is trying to get rid of the middle class, because all of the things that we need to live, energy, food, this sort of stuff is sky high inflation, 20+%. We all know it, right? Just baby formula, things to raise kids correctly, tuition, right? Anybody who's trying to better themselves. All these things are raising like crazy, right? So it makes sense why people are saying, oh, they're just taxing the middle class, trying to get rid of the middle class. But guess what else is raising? My store profits. That THC, guys. people are buying that like crazy. And I don't know if like alcohol, it's just a recession proof item, but people are buying a lot of it. And the fact that my store's by a major university, the college kids are stressed, even though they just got 10 to 20 grand knocked off their bills. They are stressed.
Yeah.
I would argue that your industry is somewhat recession proof or recession resistant. And the reason I say that is because during times like this, people gravitate towards their vices. Liquor, Brown-Forman has been doing extremely well as of late, and they did extremely well during the pandemic. I'm sure a lot of you guys recall that. Brown-Forman, if you guys aren't aware, Jack Daniels, Woodford Reserve, a lot of liquor companies under that umbrella. So, and actually, I talked about this with Ali Ray as well, about them doing okay during times of recession, because people need some sort of release. People need some sort of vice to gravitate towards. So I would almost argue that one of the good reasons you could be doing well still is because of the times that we're in. So,
agreed.
So yeah.
Agreed.
Anyways,
that THC. But what I also noticed though is during the summer months when most people travel, the online sales at my store skyrocketed. You could tell people were traveling, as the Barron's article mentioned. Travel was way up. Now, I wasn't shipping anything internationally, but a lot of customer names that I noticed as regulars in my local store were having me mail things to other states. So that tells me they were at a family or friends or a rented, cabin or whatever. They were away. So you saw that a lot over the summertime. And now that school is back in session, the foot traffic is real, and it's great. It's an outstanding thing.
Yeah. And even Goldman Sachs is requiring that right after Labor Day, everyone be back at the office, no more remote working. So it kind of shows the trend of where we're headed in terms of the return and the stress levels coming back up, because everyone's going to be stressed about going back to the office and away from their homes.
Yep. And Lord Fenrir said, "We are there." I think he means in recession. The luxury market will not put a dent in the recession, but could it kick the can down the road? Could it give an impression?
Yeah, and that's a great point. I don't, and I agree with Lord Fenrir. I think that we probably won't see much slowing in spending from the rich, from the top 1%, during times like this. The only thing that I would say is that it's weird, from a definition standpoint, I guess, when you see negative GDP for 2 quarters in a row, by definition, that is a recession. However, everybody still has their job, and there's 2 job openings for every 1 person that's able to be employed. So, and listen, look, jobs are also a lagging indicator as well, and I understand that, but we haven't really seen that big of a drop in unemployment. So maybe it's coming. I'm sure it is. That's kind of what the Fed alluded to in the Jackson Hole meeting. So who knows? I think that there's definitely a much longer conversation, more of a debate that we can have on that. Speaking of which, who was it that mentioned about remote work? Did somebody just say that?
Yeah. Sachs is requiring all their employees globally to start going back to the office itself after Labor Day. It was announced by their CEO.
Yep.
Yeah, I wasn't going to bring that up, but now that you had mentioned it, I wanted to just chat about that for a quick 2 minutes, because I still am of the mindset that a hybrid workplace is really kind of what we're going to see for the future. And I would venture to say that remote work could be here to stay for many companies, especially in tech. I mean, us right now, in the situation that we're in, we're all able to still function as a company and as a business remotely. I'll bet it's not the ideal situation, of course. I know that all of us would rather be in the office together. So that would be my next question. Is hybrid work actually going to die off? Is the Goldman Sachs way of thinking actually going to become return back to the way things were on a broader scale, or are we going to see a little bit of both?
I think you're going to see a little bit of both. I think it depends on the industry, right? The sales guys need to be in front of potential clients, right?
The techs have to be in front of the clients also.
The technicians got to be in front of the gear, right? But if you're an administrative professional, you're in finance or whatnot, those certain areas of the company are going to be able to continue a hybrid style environment. But I've seen, like, in my experience over the last 20 years I felt like we went through a cycle with this, or multiple cycles, where it's like, okay, cool, we're going to do remote work. Oh, wait, productivity's down now. You know, it spiked when we first did it. Now productivity's down. Bring everybody back to the office. Okay, cool. Here's our new benchmark, right? And then productivity is going to drop again because you spend so much extra time when you're at the office, BSing at the water cooler, you know, and whatnot. Okay, productivity is down again. Let's try the hybrid and set the benchmark again. And it's just a cycle. Right. I hope eventually companies are able to realize what roles are best for remote or hybrid, and what roles are best for the office, and that's kind of where it trends to.
Yep. Agreed.
Agreed. Offline. Go ahead.
Yeah, because you see there's certain industries where you have to be face to face, doctors. But I'll tell you what, out of the pandemic, one of the best things that I got to do is these video remote visits for minor things, you know, like, hey, doc, I think it's my allergies, you know, and like, oh, here's a Z-Pack, right? Like little things like this. We're not talking mega, you know, things that are wrong, but I think the banking world is the same way. Finances are just as important as, you know, your medical life. So there's some things that you want face to face, and then there's other things that we want, you know, remotely, or even just at a kiosk, leave me alone all the way around. So I think some spots are going to have to go back to 5 days a week in the office, and then other areas of the same industry can focus more on remote work. Like you said, I agree.
I kind of, I don't want to say worry, but my thoughts on this are that, you know, Mark Zuckerberg brought up a very interesting point in why he plans on taking Facebook to 50% remote within the next 5 years. And this was back in 21. And one of the biggest points that he brought up was he can now tap into talent from halfway across the world, and he doesn't have to bring somebody in or force somebody to move to where they are centrally located in Silicon Valley. So that I thought was a very interesting point. Like, is Goldman Sachs or companies that are requiring people to come to the office limiting themselves to the potential talent that they could have work under their entity or their firm by requiring them to come into their headquarters or the office?
So I can speak to that. I have family that works for Goldman, and they were moving their headquarters from New Jersey down to Dallas. And one of the requirements is you're going to have to show up to the office. Yeah, exactly. If there's something we learned at House of Cards, Netflix series, is the money's down there too. So, so the now that they moved down there, of course, COVID broke out, et cetera. So everyone started working remotely. But now that they're pushing for this to come, for everyone to come in, the way my in-laws work there is they work remotely also. So they have, meaning with teams in India, in Chile, in different parts of the world, arranging and, you know, planning, budgeting, investments, all that stuff. So they're still working with remote teams out there. So the big question is, okay, why now force it locally to be in the office when you're still working with teams in other parts of the world? It's a puzzle, is the way I see it. They can be equally effective without it, but I think they're looking at that camaraderie, at that
camaraderie. You also, how many local businesses are strategically placed around corporate offices, right? Now you're impacting the local,
good point,
the local businesses, because they're not popping for lunch there or getting their coffee there in the morning, or this was their dry cleaning spot because it was on their, you know, it's that type of thing.
That's a good point. Like New York City, so many were fleeing because of COVID, and now all the local businesses I lived there for a while. You just come downstairs to have your lunch, dinner, breakfast, and then go back upstairs to work. So
Yep.
Yeah, that's a great point, is to support the
Yeah.
local economies, you would think.
Yeah. When you look at, I guess, investors as a whole, most of the time they're worried about, the bottom line. And if you're saving a bunch of money on leasing and all kinds of other stuff that come with people being in the office, you would think that would be alluring to them. But it's just an interesting topic. I think that it probably will more than likely continue as things continue to evolve and develop. But I just thought that was interesting that they were all gung ho on that. And really, Google also, Alphabet, requiring everybody to come into the office too. So it's interesting to see the perceptions and the perspectives, I should say, of some of these other companies. Facebook and Twitter are of the mindset that hybrid work or fully working from home is the way to go. Whereas you have other tech companies such as Alphabet and traditional brick and mortar type companies such as Goldman that want everybody back to work. So good stuff. All right, let's get into the meat and potatoes. To me, this goes into exactly what we were talking about over the last couple of weeks about Bitcoin, seeing a bottom. Have we seen a bottom? Have we not? Where could it end up? And Greg actually ended up finding this one for us. And it was Bitcoin, why Bitcoin can crash to 12,000. And I think that it ties into some of the things that we were saying, but Jaime, I know that you wanted to kind of bring some more of your own perspective on this and why we can see a 12,000. I was thinking more along the lines of 13.8, and I think that maybe perhaps you were also of that in alignment with that. But let me know what you think about this article a little bit.
Yes.
Why can we crash to 12,000?
So if I'll show in the article itself, they're speaking in terms of the fractals and what's occurred in the past in terms of trades and how this is going to show up today. But us internally at Metaphy, we've been working with this chart on the monthly. Of course, we have the weekly and all the other, but just today, we're going to look at the monthly. It's extremely important to understand this. So what you'll see, the mouse kind of loses itself, so my apologies. I'll get a fatter mouse next time. But if you look at the market top,
how the hell are you going to find that?
It's in the settings, Tam.
Yeah.
Is that what she told you?
Charts.
So if you look at the monthly closing of the last bull run, the bodies of the candles. So these little lines going up and down, those are the wicks. They're shadows. But what matters are the bodies of the candles when you look at it, especially on the monthly time scale. So the bottom, how we identified the 13.8, let me zoom in. I don't know if it zooms in the numbers. No, it does not. So it's 13,888 more or less on this chart where Bitcoin, the previous candle was. When we did the run up, we had one single fat candle on the way up. So the top of it coincides with the top of the wick of the previous bull market. Well, guess what just happened when we were coming back down? We tested that as support, crossed the 50 monthly moving average, whipped back up, meaning there is no confirmation that we closed below it because we whipped right above it last month. This month in August, we're whipping right back down below it. So in other words, it's a whipsaw of what's going on. What's extremely important to notice here at this moment, today, the monthly candle closes at midnight UTC, which is 7 Eastern tonight. If this candle closes below the 50 moving average, you could say we are not confirmed, but now we could look at the 50 moving average, that green line, as resistance to go back up. If it tests as and confirms as resistance, we only have one fat candle on the way down. Where does that fat candle and the top of the previous candle lie? The horizontal, the monthly horizontal lies at 13,888. The 89 moving average is coming up there and almost settling. So you have two floors where the price can come and test as support. So you should see, and that ranges from 13.8 down to the 12,000. I even have buys just below it, just in case we wick down there further below. But this is the range September. We should see action related to this in September. So that's why it is possible to come down. And Don Frun made a great point. Dead cat bounce is what it seems we've been looking at.
Don also said that his low was in the $10,000 range, and I called it in the $12,000 range. So it will be interesting to see what happens there. But just as a reminder as well, for those of you that are not sophisticated traders, that you're more on the DCA level of things, just this right here is where you test your discipline in FOMO. Right? FOMO isn't just about things going up and, oh my gosh, I'm missing the bus. It can also be, oh my gosh, I'm missing the bottom. So on this, figure out where you're comfortable with the bottom. If your bottom is let's just say your bottom is $12,000. That's what you think it's going to be. Set you some bids at 12,800. Okay. Why not? Just in case it doesn't go all the way down to 12, set it at 12.8. Don't try to calculate the very bottom of the bottom. You will not. You will lose. And don't try to calculate the very top of the top. You will lose. Set your bids and then let the market come to you. Set it, forget it, right? Don't get lost in the FOMO. And when you see it maybe come down to 13,000, you're like, oh my gosh, I'm not going to get it. I'm not going to get it. And you run up your $12,800 bid. You're going to jump it to 13. Don't freak out, right? DFO, don't freak out. Set it, let the market come to you. Practice your discipline and not giving into FOMO.
And a way to do that is by breaking up. So if you have a pool of money, let's say $100 or $1,000 or whatever that amount is, break it down into 1/6 of that amount. And then you start putting your buys just above the 13.8 or wherever you feel, and just break down those 1/6 on the way south. And play some Hail Mary ones. I have a buy at $9,800. Who knows, may hit. And the return
if
on
that hits, I'm never going to hear the end of it from Don. I'm justifiably so. But 10 grand my ass, Don.
And you heard it here first.
Right.
Stay tuned.
That's right.
That
and I'm going to talk that shit because he's not here right now. So I'm right.
And that's what we do to prevent that FOMO of or missing out. So just break it down. It'll de-stress you. And if it misses, now you have other cash if Bitcoin does the opposite. You just don't know where the market will go in the end. So having cash available to you to make decisions of that sort is a good practice to do. Don't go all in every time.
Right.
Good stuff. I love it. Don's already chiming in Tam's comments. So this is a great segue into next topic. Next here is going to be on mining itself. Riot is expanding their Bitcoin mining fleet despite the market conditions, kind of falling into that dollar cost average mindset, right? But they seem to be doing a lot of things right. And if you guys aren't familiar with Riot, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, they are the largest mining fleet in the country, correct?
Yes, they are.
Yes.
Looking at this, they have 44,000 miners, while more than 3,000 are ready for deployment. The company sold 14.4 million worth of their Bitcoin treasury and had a 30 million share offering to increase its cash position. If you guys aren't familiar, they are a publicly traded company. RIOT is the ticker symbol. They released a Q2 Bitcoin mining and production update on August 16th. We're highlighted ongoing capitulation trends with the Bitcoin mining sector. This kind of goes into what we were talking about over, by the way, their year over year production increased by 107%, producing 1395 BTC valued at around 34 million at the time of the publication, which was August 16th. So to me, this kind of goes into what we are actually doing in our own mining operation, right? We went and bought up tons of miners as well, despite Bitcoin coming down. And we kind of touched on this here and there, but somebody expand on this, whether it be Greg or Jaime, on why we're doing what we're doing, and what's the benefits of going out, when conditions are so bad, everybody's afraid of things getting worse. Why we're now scooping some things up.
The cost of the miners has went down right along with the cost of Bitcoin. So a 104 terahash unit last year was $10,000, and we're finding them for anywhere between $2,500 to $3,500.
Yep, the same miner
for the same miner, nothing different, right? New in box. That's incentive. I can get my equipment cheaper. So if I'm planning to hodl, which I hope the majority are, then my return on investment is going to be a shorter timeline based on what it was before, and I'm going to start buying all the machines I can possibly get and get them in production during this bear, so that we're positioned in the right spot for the bull and the halvening.
Absolutely. And so it's very interesting that in the use of the word despite in that title, as if it were a negative. It's like, no, guys, the time to buy is now.
This is the time.
It should be, because Bitcoin is in these conditions. This is the time you invest in, because the moment Bitcoin finds its footing in terms of pricing, when it finds it, and we're buying the ASICs at these low rates, you're going to see the ASICs rise immediately. So your asset is going to almost double in value, just the asset itself that's going to be mining. So if you look at it from an accounting standpoint, you're de-risked. You just spent money for these assets that just doubled in value, and we're not even out of the bear market at that point. So
I think over the next 3 months, this is the cheapest that you're going to find miners ever again, right?
Yes,
100%. Period. No ifs, ands, or buts, because we're going to have another bull. We all know it. And, it's going to cycle again, and it's going to fall down a little bit. Maybe that time it only falls down to 50,000, right? But the miners are going to be $5,000 a pop, not 3,500. So this is the cheapest you're going to get miners, period.
It's interesting that you say that, because I also know I read something today that today the mining difficulty was expected to go up to 9.4%, which basically means the hash rate, if you listen to or watch the hash ribbons that we talk about, that's gonna fall. Can you see people turning their miners off because the difficulty just went up?
No.
And why? Why is that?
The difficulty went up because more miners are coming online.
Yes, okay. It's a sign of that they are deploying. It could be because that's literally what it means.
Yes.
There's more coming online. So
basically 9.4% has been added to the hash rate. That correlates to the difficulty change.
Yeah. And awesome. We love you guys. We're about to drop out. Greg and I.
You guys have a good one.
We'll see you tomorrow.
And
Sounds good.
What's great about this, you guys have a good one, Brad, is when it comes to the miners, a lot of people hate on Riot, I think because they're the biggest and they're in Texas, and those are two easy things to hate on if you want to find something that doesn't have a lot of legitimacy, but you can, be passionate about for some weird reason. And I know a lot of people were giving Riot shit for shutting down their miners this summer, right? It was big news. Riot shuts down. Well, after the articles,
we even talked about it. We talked about it within our own operations.
We did. But after the articles yesterday, where we learned of 3 different programs that the state of Texas has to incentivize miners to shut down during, weather highs, be it in the summer or the winter, that was probably better for Riot, monetarily. So here we are, people giving them shit when they just, they didn't play themselves at all. They made more money and they helped everybody out doing that. So I'm actually a big fan of Riot. I'm a big fan of what you call legacy teams, be it the New York Yankees or the modern day New York or New England Patriots. I like that. And Riot is that. I'm fans of them, and I like watching what they do. So this sort of thing, to see them grow is good, because we're also growing at Metaphy. I like having good mentors.
Yeah, well, and it's like you were saying yesterday, rising tides lifts all ships. If we're in the same business as Riot is, I would say a big part of our business is in the same business as Riot is. We are not the same,
Right.
but we are doing part of that. If Riot's doing well, that means that we should be doing well too, which gets me pumped too.
I agree.
Just wanted to actually look at so there's some astounding numbers here. Riot owns 6,653 Bitcoin, or around 159 million in its treasury. Just some mind-blowing numbers here, man. I mean, this kind of stuff is just crazy, because this is 159 million with Bitcoin sitting at 20K. Imagine when it gets to 250, right? What that looks like, what 6,000 looks like, and that's just in their treasury. So it just gets you pumped, man. I mean, it just
and like this, and this is where I was so excited about Metaphy, right? Like this, exactly what you're talking about, because you mentioned that we're not Riot. We're not. Riot is exclusively a mining company. They specialize in mining, and that's all they want to grow. At Metaphy, our heartbeat is mining for sure, right?
Yeah.
But we have so many different avenues that we want to take and that we're currently building, and we're excited about it because of what you just said. When Bitcoin inevitably takes the parabolic and goes back up to the regions that we all know that it will go up to, because we've been through multiple bear markets, including this one. This one feels different in a lot of ways, but at the end of the day, it's the same shit. New bear market will come out of it, right? When that happens, there are so many things that we are currently building right now at Metaphy to have everybody ride with us, right? And what does that mean? Well, it means that if you maybe have heard of Bitcoin, but you don't understand it, cryptocurrency and Bitcoin isn't in my lane, I don't understand it, I want to stand off from it. That doesn't mean that you also might not realize that it's inevitable and realize that you're going to have to use Bitcoin and or cryptocurrency one day, right?
Yeah.
So when that time inevitably comes, we will have the tooling and your future financial foundation ready for you. Right? That is what we're building on top of our miners, right? We're also building things that bring an entire community together where you're like, what the hell does Bitcoin have to do with a coffee shop, right? Or what does Bitcoin have to do with an apparel company, right? Well, the answer is everything, because we're building community. Bitcoin is about community. And when you bring community together for whatever reason, and then you can run an entire ecosystem, an entire community on cryptocurrency, peer-to-peer, flawlessly. That is the future. And that is what we're building, right? And it gets me excited. I mean, it really does. And this is why we keep calling to people, come build with us, come build with us. If you specialize in anything, if you're great at anything and think that Metaphy can help incubate you, right? Where you scratch our back and we scratch yours, we're all ears. We are all ears. I mean, look at me. I own a CBD company, right? I'm in there. Why? Because I understand crypto and what it can do for the future of my retail business, regardless of topic, right? And so we're in there building those sort of tools, the legacy tools as well. Even if you don't own a retail store, if you want to leave your kids or somebody that's special to you in your life, financial sovereignty, you need to join Metaphy and learn how you can do that, right? Because we're all going to die one day. We're all going to die one day. So be sure you're ready, right? With those you care about.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. And just to kind of touch on that too, Don asks about, where can you find me one? It's interestingly enough. Yeah. The miner conversation, Metaphy is also going to have a mining store, very similar to like an Apple store, so that you can learn how to mine and actually have the tools and hardware to do it yourself, and have your own ATM essentially is what that will be. So I'm super pumped for it, and it's all going to be better when Bitcoin makes a turnaround. But in the meantime, we still have to be diligent and know what we should be doing during these downtimes and during crypto winters. So all good stuff. Kind of gets into a good topic here as well, which I believe, didn't you bring this one up about Bitcoin
Yes.
payments for imports. Iran,
Right.
according to a local news source, Iran has enacted a law that establishes a thorough legal framework for the use of Bitcoin and cryptocurrency payments for imports. And one of the big questions I wanted to ask you on this was, one of the major narratives, especially for Bitcoin naysayers, is that cryptocurrency in general just makes it easier for the bad guy. And some people would, most people, especially in the U.S., would say that Iran isn't exactly a friendly player, right? And we're seeing the Saudis accept Bitcoin now as well. Russia, Ukraine, that part is also getting in there, getting more involved in cryptocurrencies and Bitcoin. Does this further push the narrative in that direction, or is this just more of Bitcoin adoption and is actually better for everybody?
The criminal only aspect of it is just noise, really. I mean, the currency most used by criminals is the US dollar. I mean, it is, right? Does that mean the dollar's bad? Of course not. There's just bad actors right now that understand with an emerging market like the entire Bitcoin and crypto space, there's going to be some misunderstandings and easy targets, low-hanging fruit, right? That's all it is. We talked yesterday about how I absolutely believe that Bitcoin will have a place in the treasury of every government in the entire world. I don't think it will take over as a complete payment system. I don't believe that, but I do believe it will have a place. And it's crazy. The article that you brought up was released, I mean, not even an hour after we finished our live stream yesterday. Yes, it does just happen to talk about Iran, but they are going to start accepting Bitcoin for their imports. Why is this a big deal? Because if you're importing from wherever, right, Mexico, Iran doesn't want the peso, right?
Right.
For whatever it's importing from Mexico. So you transact in a global currency like Bitcoin, and this solves that issue of having to transfer currency and and all the intermediaries in between that dip their hands into that. So this is what I mean. For certain things, a worldwide currency is going to happen. And it makes a lot of sense. And I mean, the US at some point is going to have to give in to those certain things, just like everybody else had to give in to the petrodollar. At some point, the US will have to give in to the fact that the entire world is transacting in certain ways and in certain circumstances in Bitcoin. And we're going to have to jump on that board. We simply will. Why? Because we can't stop it. Not without bombing somebody. I mean, we can stop it, but with the threat of violence. But at some point that gets old, especially when you have multiple, like say Africa or say Australia, all these allies are starting to transact in Bitcoin simply because it makes more sense for imports and exports, especially. We're going to have to jump on board, or we're just going to go to war with everybody. I mean, we can, but it's not necessarily a good political look. So just the fact that it's being run by criminals, I think, is just absolute noise.
Yeah, right. I think it kind of goes back into the conversation of the strength of the dollar as well. When it becomes for other countries whose currency isn't the dollar, it's costing them a lot of money, and we're seeing that with some of the other tech companies too. So if you can level the playing field by using Bitcoin, I think that makes a lot of sense for some of the smaller economies like Iran. Miami, I wanted you to address this one too. Miami S. Kitchen says, who wants to use a payment that goes on an open ledger for legal activity? What are your thoughts on that?
Nailed it. I mean, and there's a big misconception that Bitcoin is completely, I guess, shadowed. You don't know who sent it. You can't see anything. It's 100% private, right? That could not be further from the truth. There are some protocols that work on privacy for certain instances, but Bitcoin especially, it is an open ledger, meaning it's open source code that anybody can use, download, or do what they want with. And then from that code is basically a giant Excel spreadsheet of every activity that happens on that entire network, right? What wallet went where, who paid who what, and then it's stored in an immutable form and a new set of data is added to that, right? All the activity going on. So Miami's dead right. Bitcoin is wide open to be able to see who paid what, and how much. So if you do something illegal, it's on literally a wide open public network. So that's something that I think is just like a misnomer when it comes to Bitcoin.
Yeah. Great point, and I'm glad you addressed that. Hedman says, I want more Bitcoin, Matic, Ether, Vet, and Link. Just throwing that up there. Speaking of illegal activity, I wanted to also talk about this one here, not in particular, but the FBI is issued now a new warning for investors on DeFi hacks. Criminals are seeking to take advantage of investors' increased interest in cryptocurrencies, as well as the complexity of cross-chain functionality and open source nature of DeFi platforms. In a smart contract, terms of agreement between buyer and seller are written directly into lines of code on a blockchain network, as we all know. And cyber criminals have been trying to manipulate the complexities of the blockchain and DeFi platforms to their advantage. The FBI warned criminals to have exploited signature verification on DeFi platforms, allowing the actors to steal all the platform's investments, resulting in millions in losses. This is a little bit different than what we've talked about the other day about pig butchering, right? This seems as an all-out hack,
right.
And according to Bitfinex, is it Bitfinex? Bitfinex. 4.4 billion lost and 2.7 billion recovered for a 1.67 billion net loss in April 2020. And as of August 2022, we're seeing this increase as well. So, this is obviously a risk that we see, but to me, I don't know. I feel like I should have done a little bit better due diligence before bringing this one on, because I wanted to actually see what the hacks were for the dollar, right? Like how many banks were hacked during this time, and how much money was lost then versus here.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yep. And two, there's a difference as well between a phishing or pig butchering scheme where somebody is representing themselves as something else, and then you fall victim to that person that is not representing themselves correctly, versus an all-out hack where you didn't do anything wrong, but somebody came on the backside of a network and somehow went in and stole something that they weren't supposed to. So schemes and hacks, a little bit different on that front. But although I don't know how much money is lost in US dollar value in hacks, I can say that I know overdraft fees alone for last year were $8 billion, just in overdraft fees. So you can only imagine hacks and everything else got to be sniffing that amount. So compared to DeFi hacks, which was 4 and then 2 billion were
2.7 billion was recovered.
Yeah. By white hats. That's a good thing. But this is again where DeFi is a major promising future. Okay. I'm a fan of DeFi because I stake a lot of altcoins, but DeFi is not where you want to mess around if you're not willing to do due diligence at this point in the game. Okay. DeFi is something where if you're not willing to read white papers, research teams, see what they've done in the past, and stay current on all those things, keyword, then that space for you right now is not what you want. This is not the same type of game that has FDIC, protections. And if your money gets lost, be it because the protocol goes down completely, because the owner takes off and runs, or because it gets hacked, that somebody's going to come to the rescue and just give you your funds back. That is not how this works at all. Right. So if you're still new to the game, that is why it is, in my opinion, you right now just stick with Bitcoin. And you stick with Bitcoin in either a warm or a cold wallet, which we've talked about, 3 different wallet types, cold, hot, and warm. So start with Bitcoin. Get your feet wet there. Why? Because it's extremely safe. It doesn't get hacked. Right now, you can still lose your coins because, again, somebody pried your seed phrase away from you, or you showed something private that a hacker can then come in and steal things from you. But but you're not going to just lose your coins on the Bitcoin network. It doesn't work that way. Altcoins and DeFi, this is the future. Okay. And I believe that because it is all run on smart contracts, and all smart contracts is they are computer programs that basically say when X happens, then Y is the response, right? So that's very simplified, but it takes out all the bias of humans. It takes out all the ability for any sort of political gain or loss. All that goes away. It takes out any sort of greed that humans are obviously fall victim to all the time. It takes all of that away. And for certain things like finance is exactly what we want. Part of the reason we are in the economical hole we are in is simply because of political games that have no business being on our balance sheet. You know, there's all sort of holes where did this money go, or why did you pay this, or why did you assign a contract to this company? And it's all linked to somebody else, right? There's just all these human greed instances that have us in a jam with dollars right now. And smart contracts eliminate that. It's computers. But because it's computers, people who are tech savvy right now can infiltrate the code, find, one little thing, find one little exploit, and basically drain a channel or drain a contract in a manner not intended by the original protocol. Okay. Yeah. So that's where you just have to be really careful when it comes to DeFi and understand you are running a giant experiment, in the cryptocurrency world, and your finances can be lost. I have definitely lost money in DeFi, notably Terra Luna. But again, that one wasn't even a hack. It was a failed protocol. Who am I mad at? Myself, right? There's certain things that I should have done differently. I'm not mad at Do Kwon. I'm not mad at any of the big VCs that back that. At the end of the day, that's me. And we got to do a better job of that part of it.
Right. Excellent stuff. I really appreciate that. Just to, it's funny. Everybody who, I don't want to say everybody, but whenever you make a mistake, your first inclination is to, I don't want to say everybody, I feel like I'm being too general, but it's very common to see people try to find a place to blame on someone else other than themselves. So I certainly appreciate you like taking the ownership on that, on the mistakes that you've made. And I think that's what we also try to preach too. I do that in just traditional finance too, right? Like I didn't push your buy button for you, right? You did. Mm-hmm. You're the one that made the decision to buy that stock or sell that stock or what have you. So doing your own work and doing your own research and making your own decisions and taking ownership of that is only going to make you a better investor and a better trader, no matter what you're investing in, whether it's crypto or stocks or real estate or whatever. So good stuff there. I really appreciate that. The next thing I wanted to talk about was this thing that you brought up here regarding NFTs in the UK government. Rishi Sunak, the country's former finance minister, had asked the Royal Mint, the maker of British coins, to develop NFTs to represent the country's forward-looking approach. But details about what NFTs would actually be or what they would look like are still lacking. I wanted to know why you found this interesting and what you wanted to chat about it for.
Well, twofold. Going back to yesterday, it builds on our conversation. We talked about how Snoop Dogg and Eminem performed at the MTV Music Awards as their Bored Ape Yacht avatars, right? And the amount of advertising and how gaming systems now are buying up, or gaming companies are buying up NFTs, so that when you turn a game on now, you can play the game as your Bored Ape Yacht Club avatar, right? Like that's just the future of where we're going. And that whole millennial generation knows it and they are in love with it. And the ability of NFTs to give them what they want is applicable in that world. But I wanted to build with this article because this article is a little more mature, right? It's not a millennial type article. This is an established country in England that sold NFTs that were issued by the government. And part of what the NFTs represent is just really a show off of your wealth. You can buy an NFT that will allow you to meet and spend time with the Queen of England, right? You can buy NFTs that basically get you access to things that are not available to the general public. And you find that a lot with people who have a large amount of wealth. One of the things that they want is access, right? And they show their wealth by the type of access that they are able to display to the public. I have a Bentley, let me drive it and show everybody the access I have to high dollar cars, right? I own a huge estate in LA. Let me have a giant party and bring everybody to show everybody how successful I am. Now it's, I have a very high dollar, probably multi-million dollar NFT, and I will be able to have access to the Queen of England and show everybody my worth, my value in that, right? So these are things that I think, entire countries are taking note of, and they're starting to issue NFTs for access. And like we spoke yesterday, this is just another use case for NFTs that I do believe one day will get into the likes of medical records and house titles and any asset of value that is a physical asset. The NFT will be the representation of ownership of that asset. And this, I think, is a great job by England in showing another use case of NFTs.
I was actually surprised that to see a government such as in a developed country such as the UK getting pretty heavily involved in this, and actually involving the Queen. I mean, to me, that was really interesting stuff to see. That's quite a leap, in my opinion.
Well, it's the same type of thing you get at concerts right now. You buy, front row tickets is one thing, but then you could buy a VIP ticket that gets you access to backstage. You can talk with the band members and take pictures with them and whatnot. And that's just a much higher price tag, right? And you just get a ticket to do that. And it's usually credentials you wear around your neck. It will be the same type of thing, but instead of it being credentials, you go to your Apple Watch, you pull up your NFT QR code, and you just scan it that way. It's immutable, so there's no such thing as fakes or anything like that. And then you get the access that you paid for with that NFT, right? So, again, apply that to anything. You go to school on the first day, QR code, boom, I can go in the classroom. My tuition is paid. It shows who I am. It shows what my class is. I am supposed to be taking this test, and this is the grade I got on the test. And no one can manipulate that. Here's my whole transcript in a QR code, right? That is an NFT. And I think we'll mention it, but we also have a guest that's going to be on tomorrow, Dr. Jay Campbell, just an everyday guy, great guy I've known a long time, but he started dabbing into the NFT world and now makes passive income holding his NFTs. And he's going to tell us how he got into that and why an apparel company made NFTs, and now he's generating income from it. What in the world did that look like? So he's gonna be here sharing his story with us.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to that. I mean, there's so many opportunities in this space and NFTs, and I think that a lot of it gets lost on people because of the value we've seen kind of like crash when it comes to like artwork, right? I mean, we saw Beeple sell his digital artwork for like 75 million or somewhere around there, and a lot of that kind of stuff has come down considerably in value. But I think what people are forgetting or missing, or they're not applying the same type of principles as we are with like a crypto winter, right? And I think it's going to be important to know which types of NFTs to invest in, which is what I'm actually excited to learn about tomorrow, because I think picking and choosing your spots is going to be really important in this space, but also the use cases too that I'm really excited for. I mean, I would love to be able to just have my driver's license on my phone or on my digital watch or whatever, and not have to worry about, did I remember my wallet, right? Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
It's official. You can go through TSA with it, and it's hard for me to get excited about artwork when we have college football and hunting season in Texas opening up this weekend. I don't give a damn about artwork. You're gonna have to drag me through it.
Exactly.
I know what I'm excited about.
Exactly. Yeah, me too. But all good stuff. Tamp, I'd say we crushed this last half. What do you think?
Look at me, obviously. I mean, come on, let's be obvious here.
Who needs Jaime and Greg? And I know they're still listening.
They better not be. They're on VC. But yeah,
I can still see them in their stream though.
Yeah, to themetaphy.co and
Yes.
jump on any social media link you want to from there. And if you got ideas, man, throw them at us, because we incubate. That's one of the things we do. We incubate, we build, we mine Bitcoin, we stake cryptocurrencies, and we build prosperity for every single person out there. I mean, literally every swinging dick out there is going to need this stuff, and we got your back. You don't even know it yet, but we got your back. Okay. So join, get involved. And then one day when we are everywhere, you're going to say, damn, I wish I would have listened to her. I wish I would have understood what they meant. But just get involved now and understand we got your back, even though you don't even know you need it right now.
Yeah. And the other thing is too, if you're interested in building a business, if you feel like you've wanted to create a startup and you just didn't know how, you can reach out to us in that capacity too. Tamp is in that camp, and I am in that camp as well. And we're really excited for what's to come through Metaphy. So guys, thanks so much for tuning in. Make sure you hit that thumbs up on your way out the door. Subscribe if you're not already. Also hit that notification bell as we go live from 9 to 10 a.m. every day, Monday through Friday. And we will see you tomorrow.
See ya.